If you're a parent and you would like to follow the principles of respectful, gentle parenting, but you are having a hard time remaining calm when your child is pushing your triggers or throwing a tantrum or doing something that really upsets you, then this video is for you. I'm going to be sharing effective tips to try and remain calm even in stressful situations. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Soraya, I'm a mother of two, and here on this channel I talk about everything related to motherhood, children empowerment and social-emotional learning. I've made a series of videos about self-regulation in toddlers and about co-regulation. And co-regulation is when you, the parent, use your own state of calm to help your toddler calm down when they're having immense emotions. The problem is that sometimes when you're a parent, it's hard to keep your cool. It's really hard to remain calm when your child is pushing some of your triggers, or when you're stressed, you're in a hurry, and then something happens. Sometimes you just want to yell. Maybe you yourself, when you were a child, were yelled at or spanked, and so it can be really difficult to unlearn some behaviors and some negative coping mechanism that you've learned in your early childhood. So even though we know how beneficial it is to remain calm, and even though we know very effective techniques to calm our children down when they are having intense emotions, once you're in the moment, it can be really difficult to stay calm yourself and to do all of these steps that you should be doing. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you some very effective tips that will help you stop yourself from yelling, stop yourself from spanking, or anything else that may be hurtful for your child and for your relationship with your child. Let's get started. So the first thing is, I am incredibly grateful that God has always given me the grace to never hit my children, but I would lie if I said that I've never felt the urge, okay? We all have triggers. We all have moments when we are so tense, so stressed, so overtired, and when they push that button, sometimes it's hard to stop ourselves. So I definitely can understand the urge. So the first thing I want to tell you before you do anything else, when you start feeling that urge, put your hands behind your back, okay? If you feel like you're about to spank your child, or grab them a little bit too aggressively, grab them by the arm a little bit in a rough way, unless it's a safety matter. Of course, if they're about to run on the road and there are cars coming, of course you need to grab them immediately and make sure that they are safe. But if it's not, if there's no immediate danger, put your hands behind your back. Now, in order to fully understand the second tip I'm about to give you, we need to understand what happens to us when we are so angry. So when we start feeling really upset, our triggers are being pushed, we're just starting to feel this intense anger. Usually what happens is that our brain puts us in a fight or flight mode. What happens to you when you're in this fight or flight mode is that your heartbeat increases, you'll become really breathless because you start to have rapid breath, your muscles tense, or you can start to shake, your vision becomes blurry, you might have some stomach ache, and most importantly, you can't think clearly. And because you can't think clearly, it's hard to make the right decision, and it's hard to do the right thing because you're not thinking clearly. So what do you do when you're having this rush of adrenaline and when you're feeling all of these intense emotions rushing through your body and it's hard for you to think clearly and to remain calm? Well, you need to do deep breathing. And the important thing to know about deep breathing is that you're not suddenly going to master it while you're mad. So it's something that you have to practice ahead of time. And the reason why deep breathing is so effective is that deep breathing and adrenaline can literally not coexist in your body at the same time. So it's an incredibly effective technique to help bring the adrenaline down and to help calm yourself down so that you are able to make the right decision. So how do you practice deep breathing? Well, you start by inhaling a deep breath through your nose. You can count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you're there, you hold your breath for 2 seconds. 1, 2, and then you exhale through your mouth and you count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you stay there for 2 seconds before you do it again. And what's important is that if you put your hands on your belly, you should feel your belly, it's like a balloon inside your belly. And when you inhale, you can feel your lower belly fill up with air, and then you hold it for 2 seconds. And when you exhale, you feel your lower belly empty itself, like the balloon is deflating and all the air is coming out. So it's usually really important that you exhale for longer than you inhale. Okay, so remember, practice when you're calm so that when you're mad, you know just what to do, and you can straight away, take 2, 3 deep breaths, and that will usually be enough to calm yourself down. Now, once you've taken this deep breath, that usually should have calmed you down enough that you're not responding to impulse at this point. You're able to start thinking clearly. So what I recommend is that if you're feeling very upset, it's okay to take a few seconds to gather yourself, get yourself together, and find the strength to respond more appropriately to your child. Find the strength to respond with love instead of responding with anger. So how do you do that? You can go and get yourself a cup of water. That's tip number 3. Go drink a cup of cold water. That usually really helps you to think, process things. That takes a few seconds. You don't have to react immediately. Once again, if it's not an immediate danger, an immediate safety issue, even if your child has been, drawing on the walls or doing something like that, you have the time to go take a cup of water before you react, before you respond to that situation. So go drink a cup of water. And tip number 4 is don't talk too fast, because if you talk fast, then you're not giving yourself time to think about what you're going to say. And so, if you keep practicing positive discipline and gentle parenting, then you will get to know the words really well. I've made a full video about how to soothe a toddler when they're having a tantrum and how to stop toddler tantrums. And so I describe a couple of steps that you should take, and if you've watched that video, then you know that it's kind of always the same phrases and sentences that we use. We kind of always say the same things, we just adapt it to that situation. So you would get to know them by heart, and you try to stick to those so that you stop yourself from saying something else that might be damaging for your child. But always take your time, don't speak too fast, so that you can think about what you are about to say. If you're finding these tips helpful, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Make sure you hit that notification bell so that you never miss one of my videos. Tip number 5, and this is something that I have learned when I was reading the Faber and Maslich's book. I think it's called How to Be the Parent You've Always Wanted to Be, and I really recommend this book. I've learned so much from it. I will link it in the description box below. But I remember them saying in that book that if you feel like you're gonna lose it and shout, maybe because your child has done something really upsetting, maybe they're pushing on one of your triggers, maybe they're doing something that you've told them 1,000 times not to do, just stick to one word. And I found that this is so useful. For example, I don't know, let's say that you always keep reminding your child to throw food packaging in the bin once they're done eating. And once again, you see them and you find that the food packaging is on the table, or worse, on the floor, and they've not put it in the bin. Instead of, responding to your first urge, which might be to say, what did I tell you? Why do I always have to repeat myself? Why do I always have to tell you? We are not in a pig house. You need to be more clean. This is disgusting. Instead of responding to that urge, just tell your child food packaging. One word, just tell your child, I don't know, crayons on the floor. Stick to a minimum amount of words so that you just bring their attention to this item. And your child is smart. Even a young child, this works with my 3-year-old. She understands exactly what I'm expecting from her and what I want her to do. So if you feel like it's going to be hard for you to communicate in a calm way with your child, stick to one word. Tip number 6, which is quite important, is to ask yourself whether your anger is reasonable. And I know that in the moment you feel like your anger is justified and you feel like it's reasonable for you to be angry. But I think as mothers, we have all experienced those moments when we got really mad at our child and we really told them off for something. And then literally 2 minutes later, we look back and we realize that maybe we weren't as fair as we could have been. Maybe our reaction was disproportionate. So try and take a few seconds to think, is my anger justified? Is it reasonable for me to be in such a state of frustration and anger? And sometimes the answer might be yes. But sometimes the answer is actually no. And sometimes you realize that you're not actually mad at your child, you're just lashing out on them because you're feeling stressed about other things. Tip number 7, identify your triggers. And if your children are old enough, talk to them about your own triggers and boundaries, just like you would invite them to speak about their own triggers and boundaries. I think that it's completely normal within a family unit to know each other's boundaries, to know what really is difficult for some of us, and it's not the same for all of us. We've all got different triggers. For example, my trigger is noise. I've always been extremely sensitive to noise. I don't know why, but it's something that's always been in my life long before I've had children. It's one of the reasons why, for example, I've never been clubbing, or I hate pubs or loud restaurants. These are really uncomfortable places for me to be, and it really gives me a lot of anxiety and it makes me feel very uncomfortable. And so of course with young children, they can be really loud sometimes, and sometimes I find myself triggered even though my children aren't doing anything special. One will be playing with her dolls and talking to her dolls, and the other is just singing and babbling to himself. And just because there are two kind of loud sources of noise going on at the same time, just this sometimes can make me feel nervous, and that's really a trigger for me. But just being aware of it really helps me, calm myself down, because then when it's happening, I know that this is what's happening to me and that it's not my children who are doing something wrong. It's just one of my triggers that is being tickled by what's happening. And also, as soon as my children are old enough to understand, this is definitely a conversation that I will have with them. And triggers are not something that you always understand. Sometimes it's just, something that may seem to others unreasonable or absurd or even ridiculous. People may be wondering, like, why are you having such a strong reaction? It's not a big deal. It's just a bit loud, or, but it's just, if it's a trigger for you, then, it's a trigger for you. And so people around you, if they care for you, if they love you, they should learn about your boundaries and they should learn to respect them, just like you as a parent should learn your children's boundaries. As a partner, you should learn your partner's triggers and boundaries so that you respect them. And just doing that will create a much more peaceful atmosphere in your home. And my last tip, which is probably one of the most important ones as well, if you find yourself angry a lot, if you find that you're often yelling, often, just being aggressive with your child, with people around you, if you find yourself in this negative spiral of emotions often, then this means that some of your needs aren't being met. You need to think about your inner child and realize that this inner child inside of you, they're missing something. They need love and compassion and care, just like your children do. So if you don't take care of yourself, it will be harder for you to take care of others. If you're not good to yourself, it will be harder for you to be good to others. And so I made a whole video about mommy burnout in which I talk in details about this and about how to care for yourself so that, you can parent from a place of love and patience and kindness rather than from a place of anger and frustration. But this is very important. Think about yourself. What needs do you have that aren't being met, that trigger you into being mad all of the time like this? That's it for today's video. I hope that you have found these tips really useful, and I hope that the next time you are about to get mad or you're feeling really frustrated and you're feeling all the signs of this fight and flight mode, you remember to use these tips so that you can remain calm and use your own state of calmness to help those around you soothe their own emotions and become calmer themselves. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for watching.